I know that many of you are very familiar with our dear friend Ed Clancy. He's very well known to those of us that are expats here in San Miguel. 2001, he was a corporate lawyer, and in 2006, he was appointed as a consular agent here in San Miguel, and it was a position that he held in very high esteem until his retirement. I guess, almost close to 2 years now. Time does fly, and we miss you, Ed, in that position, but we're very, very fortunate to continue to have you as a true friend here in San Miguel. And he's here today to give us some wonderful tips, mostly on travel, and to share some information with us. And so without further ado, I wish that you all join me in giving a midday Rotary Club welcome to our dear friend, Ed Clancy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Well, I want to start with some good news, I think. And that is that Mexico is no longer number 3 in worldwide deaths from COVID. We're now number 4. And, you know, I don't like the time we live in. You know, it's awful, and really we have to get through it. And one of the awful things is it's not clear at all to me when we're going to get through it. So we just have to go day by day. The first thing I want to talk about is travel. Mexico and the U.S. have entered into a bilateral agreement which expires September 21st, but they have a history of renewing these. And this bilateral agreement limits travel between the countries to essential travel only. And there's a definition of what's essential travel, and there's a definition of who an essential traveler is. But one thing that maybe we don't know is that this is for land only, not for air. So if you're flying, it's okay. And I don't know anybody who's really had problems flying between the U.S. and Mexico. Now, there are other countries that restrict entry by the country you're coming from. And so if you're going to Europe or Eastern Europe or Africa, you might want to check on those countries, because I have heard of people being denied entry into some of those countries. Now, in addition, the U.S. has just in the last week made their restrictions tighter in terms of travel. And not that they're going to not let you in, but they're going to ask you more questions. It's going to take more time. And if you're sick, then you're probably not going to be able to get in. So they'll take your temperature, you know, all those sorts of things. So that's travel. Now, as far as what Mexico is doing, Mexico just purchased 200 million vaccinations from, I don't know from who, either China or Russia. Now, and these vaccinations are ones that you take twice. Now, I have mixed feelings about this. First of all, I think it's good that Mexico is being proactive and they're doing it, but I know that Russia and China are not doing a great job of testing for these vaccinations. And so it's sort of 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. Having said that, I think it's better to, well, it's better to be careful, but all things being equal, it's better to have it than not, I think. But we don't know yet. and these haven't been delivered yet. 200 million is not enough for the whole country to get 2 shots, but it's a start. And the government hasn't said how they're going to allocate these. Who's going to be eligible for the vaccination shots, who's not. So we're going to have to wait and see. But at least we have a plan for vaccination in Mexico. And I think the Mexican government had thought that it would be toward the end of the year. Now that to me seems pretty ambitious. So we'll have to wait and see. Okay. Hours and what the U.S. government can do for us. You know, the government provides a lot of information so that we can make our own decisions. But they don't do a lot beyond that. They don't arrange for flights back home, anything like that at all. In cases where they do arrange it, like the hurricane maybe, you have to pay for it. And they don't provide the jets or anything. So right now, I'd say if you live in San Miguel, great. Stay here. Stay inside, you know, wear a mask, social distancing, everything that we've been doing. If you don't live in San Miguel, you can go home. The border restrictions do not prevent U.S. citizens from going back to the U.S. You know, having said that, you know, it's sort of a mixed bag. I wouldn't be doing too much traveling right now myself. What else? Oh, the consular agency. I don't know much about the consular agency and their hours, except that they've been closed forever. It seems like at least 6 months, and they continue to be closed, and they are not very accessible. They give you a phone number to call, and you get when you call, you get it answered by a service, and the service is not in San Miguel, it's in Guadalajara or Monterrey. So if you need something, I would plan on calling the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. They do answer the phone. If you need to have your passport renewed, call the embassy in Mexico City, make an appointment. I don't know if they're renewing passports for non-emergency travel or not. You're going to have to ask them. At one point, they were not. So I don't know. Luckily, we're not going to be doing too much traveling, so we don't need to have passports. What else can I tell you? Do you want me to talk in general about other things? Okay, I'll talk about something that is always an interesting topic of conversation, and that is prescription drugs. Now, a lot of us get our prescription drugs from the U.S., and we get them through different services in San Miguel. The services we get them from are importing these drugs illegally. And so you should go ahead and keep using them. You don't have any liability, but these companies do have liability if they're caught. And the liability is 5 years jail. So just for you to know that if all of a sudden the person you're using can't do it, don't get mad at them. They're just trying to be careful with their own lives. Now, we don't live in a border town, and border towns, people would fly to Canada or fly to Tijuana, pick up their drugs and go back. That's a lot harder now. And it's not, in general, it's not legal. Okay. Does anybody have questions?
I've got a couple of questions already on the screen here. Someone wants to know if you are still a U.S. notary.
No. The only person who's allowed to notarize documents in San Miguel is the consular agent. And in all of Mexico, only consuls and consular agents can notarize documents. So the person who's the consular agent can notarize documents, but that's not me anymore. So to have something notarized, really you have to have it done in Mexico City. And I know it's a total drag, but that's really the only option. Now, I will say there is something called notarize.com, and they provide an online notarization service. It's not accepted by every state in the US. It's only accepted by some, but I think it's worth it to look into it. And there's also some savings. I think it's only $40 or maybe even less.
Okay, we've got a prescription type question here that's a little charged. So where does the tax charged for prescriptions go when using mail forwarding service? So I think you need to go back to that, what you mentioned earlier.
Well, I don't know about any taxes. You see, if you get a prescription medication by UPS or FedEx, DHL, generally it goes to customs. Customs hangs on to it for a while, a month or so, and then they return it, and you don't get it. So there's no tax in that case at all. Now, if you're getting something by regular mail, like let's say you're having it sent to La Conexión, and La Conexión is going to pick it up and bring it here. They don't pay tax. All they pay are fees. There's just fees that they impose, and those fees go to them. And it's to cover their cost of delivery and all that. So there's no real tax that I know of. Plus, of course, there's no tax because it's not legal to be shipping it in.
That's the key right there, Ed. So we've got another question here. This gentleman says, my teenage daughter is in Wisconsin, and is there any secure way for her to return to SMA?
Is she an American citizen?
This question comes from a gentleman who signed in as Carl. Carl, you want to go ahead and open your mic and respond? Yes, she is a U.S. citizen.
If she flies in, it's going to be fine. If she wants to drive in, she's going to have trouble because it's not going to be considered to be essential. And I will say that the question of essential travel is not just at the border, it's from state to state. Like my cousin just came to visit me from Mexico City, and when he came to Guanajuato, they stopped him and they said, is this essential? Because he's going into Guanajuato from Querétaro. So if she's going to drive in, that's going to be a problem. But if she's going to fly, it's going to be fine probably. And it's going to be secure.
Yeah. Hello there. I typed in my answer. Yes, she's a dual citizen.
Okay, great. So I don't think she's probably going to fly because it's a long way to drive. She won't have any problems flying in.
Thank you, Ed. Someone asked, which land border crossing is best?
Well, okay. I had some rules about driving in Mexico. The first is I drive during daylight, and I try not to drive at night. The second one is I drive on pay highways. You know, it depends where you're coming from. I've never had any problem going through McAllen, even though it's not really a pay highway. I've never had any problem going through Laredo, and I've only gone through other places. Maybe I've gone through the one that's near Tucson, Nogales, but I don't have a lot of experience at anywhere besides Laredo, but I've never had any problems in Laredo.
Okay, we have a gentleman here, excuse me, a young woman. My passport expired in July. What should I do?
Okay, you should call the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, make an appointment. They may ask you, is this for emergency travel? You should answer, I can't tell you how to answer, but if you say no, they may say, in that case, we'll be happy to help you when we resume normal services. And they don't think they're putting you out too much because really nobody's traveling.
I guess it's never really a good idea to not have a valid passport.
And I totally agree with that.
Right.
Only right now, the U.S. Embassy is not making it so easy.
Right. So is it okay to send an application for renewal of a passport through the mail from Mexico or through a relative in the U.S.?
I think you can send it by mail to the embassy in Mexico City. Now, to the U.S., it's not going to work really well unless you're going to go to the U.S. to renew your passport.
So are you saying to send it from here to Mexico City through mail?
Yeah.
Or through a paquetería, through a service like Estafeta or DHL or something like that?
I think that services are fine. I don't think you have to use them. Personally, I don't have a lot of great experience with the Mexican post office. I find it to be
I think we froze.
I think our
slow
speakers.
and delivery is questionable. It's
Yes.
mail service. Something like
We'll
that.
give our speaker a moment. Okay, Ed, you froze for a moment. Think you're back. Ed, can you hear us?
Okay, I'm
All
sorry.
right. Yes, no problem.
I can hear you going in and out.
Yes. You were.
Okay, I can see there's more questions in the chat.
Yes, there are more questions in the chat. Another question is, any idea when the SMA consulate might open?
I don't have any idea. They don't seem to be in any hurry to open. The embassy is open and the consulates are open. The consular agency is not open. I don't understand why exactly, but it's not. So I don't know when it's going to reopen. And I don't have any insight.
What happens with Bajío when Bajío Go picks you up in Querétaro to drop you here in SMA, state to state? I can personally speak of that. I just traveled last week and I had absolutely no problems with that. But maybe you have another experience you can share with us.
No, I don't know of any problems using Bajío Go to go from state to state.
No.
And I know that there are, at the entrance to San Miguel from Celaya and Querétaro, there are stop points where they ask you what you're doing. I say, I'm going home. I live in San Miguel and I don't have any problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just had that experience the other day, and
Mhm.
that's exactly what happens. They will either flag you through or they will pull you over. It's happened to me twice where I've been flagged over, and they ask you, you know, first of all, they'll take your temperature, and then you tell them you live in San Miguel. If they want proof, you show them your driver's license, and you're on your way. But most of the time when I've come back, they just kind of flag you through, especially if you're in one of those Bahio Go vans. They just
Correct.
generally flag those guys through.
Correct. So we have, let's see how many participants. We've got 67 folks on the line. We've got probably one of the most knowledgeable speakers here in San Miguel, one of the most knowledgeable citizens for sure. I am sure that our guests have more questions. Everybody's very quiet this sleepy Tuesday, September 1st. It's a shocker. I have very few questions. Everybody's either very knowledgeable this September 1st, or I don't know what's going on.
You know,
I'm
it's
not
going
sure how to use the chat button.
September is a
Yeah.
really important month in San Miguel. A lot goes on. There's the Quince, there's the Feast of San Miguel at the end of the month. Right now, they're putting up, you know, banners and things, but it's not clear at all what's going to happen.
I heard some fireworks last night for the first time in a while. So I think things are starting to wake up in San Miguel. And certainly they started decorating all over town, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know if they've opened Airbnb?
On July 15th, hotels were allowed to open at a 40% rate. And there have been other concessions given to hotels and Airbnbs. They're up to 50% now, I believe, as of August 17th or so. There was another meeting with the Hotel Association. That I can tell you because we were also provided with some information here at Patronato Pro Niños. We ourselves were given a certificate to go back to work on August 13th. And as a matter of fact, we opened up today. So yes, the city is going back to work. Yesterday, the mayor and the governor had a return to reopening some of the city's economy back. They had a big conference call with about 115 participants via Zoom. Mm-hmm.
Is there any polite way to ask people on the street to please put their masks on? People seem to feel that if they're wearing their mask on their wrist, it is effective.
I don't know who's asking that, but we need people to ask on the chat, and I'm going to continue to relay some messages. So some new messages are coming in. So do we know anything about the delay in global entry renewals?
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a difficult question when you meet people who are not wearing masks, because you'd like them to be wearing masks for their own good and for everybody else too. But there's no easy way to broach the subject without potentially causing trouble.
Mm-hmm. How do you rate, is one of the questions here, Ed, how do you rate the mayor's response to COVID in San Miguel?
How do I feel?
Yes, how do you rate his response to COVID?
Well, I'm disappointed that we're opening because, you know, I look at the dashboard every day and I see regular new cases. And this is in a city where really we don't do any testing at all. So the truth is we don't know how many cases there are. And so I think we should be more careful than we're being. But you know, it's not my call.
Mm-hmm. Not your call, absolutely. So let's see, I've got another question here. Did you answer the question on the global entry renewals? Do you know anything about the delay in global entry renewals?
No, I don't know anything about global entry renewals except that you do it at airports, right?
Part of the process is an interview at the airport.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's not all airports. It's only certain airports you can do it at. I believe you can also do it at the embassy in Mexico City, but I'm not positive. But you know, I don't have global entry, so I don't keep track of that.
Well, speaking as someone who's expired last May, they issued an automatic 1-year extension. So I'm still waiting. I keep checking online, and it's still delayed, and there's no indication of how soon they'll schedule interviews to complete the process.
Speaking of 1-year extensions, I think a lot of people here belong to the civil list. There was something on the civil list about a month ago that immigration in Mexico, in San Miguel, was extending people's visas for up to a year longer if they couldn't renew it, if they couldn't go to the U.S. to renew it because of COVID. So I think that's worth doing for people who are here on temporary visas.
Absolutely. Of course, you know, some of the information that I see some of the questions coming up, and some of these questions have to do with a lot of the rates of COVID infections and things like this. And obviously, we have to be fair to our speaker. We have brought speakers on to these meetings that are deal with these questions in a more relevant way. They're part of the health department, and they're people that deal with this on a daily basis. We are looking for an update from the city again regarding the current status. We'll be bringing some new people on board. So in fairness to Ed, is there anything, Ed, that you can share with us that has to do directly with COVID?
Yeah, I think the only thing I can say is that I've never seen any rates for San Miguel. In fact, when they say there are deaths attributable to COVID in San Miguel, and when they say there are cases, really I'm surprised, because San Miguel's official policy is if somebody gets sick, send them to Celaya or Querétaro. So I'm kind of surprised that we have any cases at all. But I've never seen statistics on San Miguel. I've only seen statistics on Guanajuato, on the state. The state is what they call an orange state. Mexico has 3 layers: red, orange, and yellow. And there's maybe 10 red and 10 yellow, and all the rest are orange. We're orange. And which is, you know, it's okay, but it's not great.
Do you have any information about the TIP in terms of extending the temporary visas for that program? The
temporary visas for Mexico?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they are continuing to extend the temporary visas, and they will be for a while. And it's apparently a very simple process.
Okay. Did I miss any questions here, Ron? Did you see anything else that because as the questions come in, they scroll in and out. It's kind of hard to keep up.
Well, there was only one general question that probably more you and Skip might be able to answer better, is what's been the experience in the actual airplanes flying in and out in terms of social distancing and space?
Yes, I've certainly flown quite a bit. As a matter of fact, since this whole thing started, I have flown a number of times to the States, and I have found the general experience to be quite good. My experience has only been on American Airlines, simply because I go to Miami and that's my airline of choice. They have, of course, a 100% must wear a mask policy. I always wear a shield as well. Some people come into the flight with hazmat suits, which is, quite interesting to me because I think as a person that works in a medical facility, I find that a little comical because they're not going to be dealing in the medical, field. So I find that a little comical, but to each its own. But I have not felt unsafe. And as a matter of fact, I have to tell you, I find the Mexican airports safer. And I remember my first flight out, returning to Mexico City. I found it very interesting that at the airport, they even took the trouble of separating the luggage and kind of doing social distancing. So the luggage came out, separated out far enough so that no one would come and try to get pieces of luggage while two were coming out at a time. So I found that quite interesting. And there was somebody with a horn kind of telling people with a loudspeaker to keep their social distance at the Mexico City airport. So all in all, my travel experiences have been really, really good. And I think everyone's trying to do a good job.
All right. Yeah, that's been my experience too, Nori. I have flown American out of Querétaro. I look for short haul flights, and I look for planes that are the small planes so that you're not three people, in a row, just two people in a row. And I always pay the extra money to sit up front, and that's how we've done it. We've done it twice now, and
Exactly.
we really have not had any problem, and none of the flights have been full either.
No, the flights have been quite empty. And as a matter of fact, the car rentals as well, they've been quite empty, quite empty. Let's see. So does Ed have any idea about how many expats are leaving San Miguel permanently, like saying goodbye, leaving? Okay. Wow.
We're in a situation where really all of us are the same. We're mainly at home. We go out maybe to the grocery store and other places, but mainly we're at home. So I don't know about people leaving. I don't know any expats who have left. I'm sure some have, but I don't know any personally.
It's funny, as a person that's very involved in the community, I do know a few expats that have left, but just as much, I've also noticed an influx of younger expat families moving in, including many families that have started raising, American-born children here, and they're becoming fully bilingual. So I find that to be quite interesting. We're becoming a younger community, and that's quite interesting as well.
And that's true. When I came, there were no young people at all raising kids.
Yeah.
19 years ago, and now there are really quite a few.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Academia International is building a huge new facility behind Mac Hospital. They're building a huge new school there, and they are a grade school, elementary through middle school, and I'm sure that soon they'll probably open a high school as well. And they're growing leaps and bounds, full of expat children.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's it. I don't see any other questions at this moment.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me.
Ed, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And